Good evening, everyone. I'm Gene Bailey, and you're watching FlashPoint. Listen, tonight, very excited about tonight's program because this is one of our favorite programs is always when we dive into what's going on in the medical community, and because we peel back the layers of the onion and bring you the truth on what's going on. So right now, get your notepad, your pen, get your camera if you want to take a picture of the screen, whatever. We've got a lot of information. You're going to want to share this information, bookmark this. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. If you're not, go back to our YouTube channel. You can find all of it, fparmy.com/media. I want to get right into it. Let me welcome Dr. Peter Mccullough back to the program. Dr. Mccullough, thanks for coming again. And I always like it when you're on because we're actually able to kind of bring in the latest round of what's going on and disseminate and get the truth out there. Let me just get your take right off the top. I know we got some topics to get into. What is the number one concern you have for medicine in America?
Well, right now, I think it's the childhood autism epidemic. It is absolutely like wildfire, Jane. I know everybody in FlashPoint Army, many of your audience are parents or grandparents now. Looking at the younger generation, CDC reports 3.2% of all children have autism now, 27% of that profound autism, mentally impaired, cannot communicate, banging heads, cannot use the toilet. It's a real problem. It's growing, and we need answers.
Now, let me ask you that. All right, I'm going to have to ask for an answer. Give us one thing that you think. What does the facts say? What is the science telling us when it comes to autism? That how we can get away from this such a high number?
Mccullough Foundation received an independent grant. We've spent more than a year on our analysis, just published it on the European Commission preprint server. It's in the peer review process. It's called The Determinants of Autism. Our report, first author is Nicholas Holscher. We reviewed now over 130 studies, 82% new information since the last report on this in 2004. 79% of the studies support that a major risk factor is actually getting a big bundle of vaccines during childhood. That's the reason why there's so much autism now, and it wasn't, nearly the case when you and I were kids.
No, without a doubt. All right, let's get, I can't get off track. I got to make myself stay on track here. Let me introduce my other two guests that are on the panel. First time, Dr. David Vella, internal medicine trained, worked in a major health system for more than 32 years before resigning at the height of the COVID policy violations of medical ethics and his Christian values. Although contemplating retirement prior to COVID, the administrative pressure he was under to treat patients in ways inconsistent with personal values, well, it helped make the decision for him. He now advocates for organizations working to restore public health. Dr. Vella, thank you for being on and being a part. Was it hard? This is not our topic, but I got to ask you. All of this came up during COVID, like so many of us. The medical community, all eyes turned to who do we believe, and suddenly we were faced on this side of the operating table. we were faced with who do we believe. On your side, you were being canceled and fired and let go for what you did believe. Speak to that. How was that to go through?
Correct. It was very difficult because, like many physicians, I was aware that the narrative did not match the statistics. So for me, it was a fraud from the beginning. Especially when a public health expert came on television and announced to the country that 2.2 million people would die in the U.S. and 700,000 in the U.K. When that model, quote, model of infection fatality was already debunked. In fact, 1 week after that model was presented to the international community, it met up with a flurry of criticism from epidemiologists around the world explaining how they made numerous assumptions which inflated the infection fatality rate by an order of magnitude. So right from the beginning, I knew I was in for a challenge, and my priorities were first to protect my patients from the malfeasance that I saw coming their way, and secondly, to try to understand the behavioral disturbances and psychopathology that was driving the narrative. But thank you, Gene, for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being on. I got so many questions. Let me introduce my next guest, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, board certified, here I go, I'm going to try it, otolaryngologist. Hey, I did it, I think. Excellent. Sleep medicine specialist based in Houston. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she treated 6,000 patients and became prominent advocate for early treatment protocols. And you probably have heard that name in the news. Early and vocal opponent of COVID-19 vaccine mandates, Dr. Bowden's Houston hospital became one of the first to enforce them. Uh-oh, that's not going to work. Dr. Bowden faced suspension of her privileges for tweeting, "Vaccine mandates are wrong." Let me bring her in. Dr. Bowden, thank you for being on. I'm going to ask you some of the same questions. I mean, here you are, things are clicking along okay in your career, and suddenly you're seeing COVID, and you go back to that day where you posted that tweet, "These mandates are wrong." What were you thinking?
Well, I had privileges at Houston Methodist Hospital, and they were really the first in the country to mandate the shots. They did this on April 1st, 2021. It was 5 months before Biden. I feel like it was very purposefully done in Texas. They knew if they could get away with mandates in Texas, they could get away with them anywhere. And I had privileges there, and I was very loosely associated with the hospital. I actually never had admitted a patient there. But I had all these patients coming to me very distraught about the mandates. And because I was treating COVID, I was seeing firsthand that the shots weren't working anyway. So I spoke out on social media, and on a single day, I tweeted out 25 times, "Vaccine mandates are wrong." And I included a patient testimonial with each of those tweets. And then a few days later, they brought the axe down. I got a text message from a reporter at the Houston Chronicle informing me that my privileges were suspended at Houston Methodist. That's how I found out, from a reporter.
Wonderful. And
then they proceeded to tweet about me and said I was spreading dangerous misinformation, harmful to the community.
Was that shocking to you at that point?
Very much so. I have a large online presence now, but at the time I didn't at all. I mean, I would get like 2 likes on a post. I was a solo physician. I actually had been out of practice for a while because I had 4 kids, and I had recently started my practice 6 months before the pandemic started. So yeah, it was a huge blow. It changed my life dramatically. In retrospect, it was good. I'm glad it happened, but at the time it was really hard.
We can only imagine. All right, let me go full circle back to you, Dr. Mccullough. This is just a smattering. Now, what Dr. Bowden just said, I did not realize Houston was, I guess, ground zero for that's what you're telling me. That's very interesting to me. Why it would be Houston? Is it? Let me get your take, Dr. Mccullough. Is it because they're more receptive down there in Houston to this? Why would Houston be the first? I'm curious. Do you know?
Well, think about it. Houston Methodist is at Texas Medical Center. It's the world's largest medical center. Right there is MD Anderson, the nation's in the world's greatest cancer center. So I agree with Dr. Bowden. I think they were trying to make a statement. But Gene, these vaccines are so dangerous now. Think about this. They're so dangerous. We now have a statewide ban on vaccine mandates. So what Houston Methodist did today is outlawed because the vaccines are so dangerous. We couldn't allow someone to be mandated to take the shot now. Clearly, the vaccines were just as dangerous back then.
But, Dr. Mccullough, I'm still seeing you need to go get your updated COVID shot. I'm like, what? How can people with any type of clear conscience still be pushing this in this line? Let me go to you, Dr. Vella. I mean, how can the medical community, are they just bought off? Is that these ones that are going there, are they just, I'm not saying everybody is, but I'm saying, are some of these people just paid for and they're just going to keep pushing stuff even though they know it's not accurate?
Well, actually, there's no single behavioral disturbance which explains every actor's role in this tragedy. known as COVID-19. So corruption is at the top of the list. There's no question about it that the entire campaign was financed. But I think Peter is on the right track with his book with the title Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. Some people are calling this a religion. I'm going to push back a little bit. I think the appropriate clinical term here is actually ideology, and I believe it's a delusional ideology based on the hemispheric model of consciousness. We are dealing with delusion. And the point at which bias, training, indoctrination crosses over into delusional disorder is when you can no longer assimilate any new information that contradicts or counters your belief system. So I believe that we're dealing with clinically diagnosable delusional disorder based on the hemispheric model of consciousness.
I agree, Dr. Vella.
Of course, we're in a spiritual battle. This is in a much larger spiritual battle.
But, you know, as you're talking, I'm sitting there remembering, okay, maybe it was a long time ago, my high school, you know, biology class, chemistry class, and how you're going through all this stuff, and you come up with a hypothesis, and you got to make sure your hypothesis, you know, everything's got to be based back on the fact, and you got to have reasons for that. And I'm like, they were off way back there. I mean, at that stage of this. And so the corruption has to, and I'll say it, the corruption is just staggering that the American people, we're still going, wait, what? And a lot of my folks in my audience, and Dr. Mccullough, you know my audience, they're going, we didn't go to the doctor. I mean, when I was growing up, you had to have a limb hanging off and blood spurting, you know, and if you couldn't rub dirt on it and walk it off, then, you know, you had to go to the doctor. And somehow going to the doctor was like an admission of weakness to go to the doctor. I mean, that's the generation we grew up in. I mean, you just didn't go unless you needed something. Now people go if they sneeze twice. And I'm not, there's no knock on the medical community at all, but this is show how far things have descended. And now I think in America, since COVID especially, the people are more, I mean, now I think everybody thinks twice, which is not a good thing necessarily, that we think twice. I've got a high fever. Do I go to the doctor? Is he going to try and stick something in me that I don't know about? You know, and that's the part that we can't measure. There's no statistical way to measure the people that aren't going to the doctor that should be because of what happened with COVID.
Well, actually, I'll interject, Gene, because actually last year in July of 24, the JAMA published, that's the Journal of the American Medical Association, published that the distrust in medicine skyrocketed from 30% to 60% during the COVID narrative. And this was a very large survey study of almost 500,000 adult Americans. So we do have a pretty good gauge on this.
Yeah, well, I absolutely. All right. So, Dr. Bowden, let's get to your case, because I think this is infuriating that we're still, with all that we now know, that we're still dealing with this type of pushback. All right, so you find out on Twitter at the time that you no longer have a position there at the medical center. Walk us through what that meant so that people at home really understand what that meant when that happened to you.
Well, like I said, I mean, I had never used that hospital for privileges, but it was a huge stain on my reputation. I mean, no doctor wants to be called dangerous. And that's what I became. I had CNN, Washington Post, writing hit pieces on me. I had people screaming at me from across the world online, you know, calling me all sorts of names. I received death threats. So, you know, but I have fought back very hard. I decided to go on offense, and I held a press conference in front of my office that Monday. I resigned from the hospital. When I resigned, they turned me into the medical board because I resigned while I was supposedly under investigation. And I am still fighting the medical board 4 years later. Now, the board eventually did drop the Methodist charge, but not until recently. And now they're still going after me for ivermectin. And as it stands now, I'm waiting for the final hearing. They gave me a hearing a couple weeks ago, but they didn't let my attorneys into the meeting. So we're going to have a rehearing on December 12th. And then at that point, I will have to appeal to the state court and try to clear my name.
Let me play this clip of Texas State Rep Steve Toth. He put this video out in support of you. Watch.
Hey guys, so the Texas Medical Board met yesterday to reprimand Dr. Bowden in a Teams meeting. It's Teams is like Skype or Zoom, only the Texas Medical Board failed to allow Dr. Bowden's attorneys into the meeting. They did allow NBC News into the meeting, but not her own attorneys. Further, as the defendant, she's supposed to have the final 10 minutes as a rebuttal. They failed to do that as well. Look, the Texas Medical Board can't nail Dr. Bowden for attempting to administer ivermectin, because Senator Parker and myself passed legislation granting patients the right to use experimental drugs like ivermectin, so they're trying to nail her on a technicality. Guys, this is the ultimate injustice when the state of Texas uses the full and limitless force of government against a doctor to crush a doctor for carrying out her Hippocratic oath to do no harm. The Texas Medical Board does not care. Guys, this is our opportunity to step up. She stuck her neck out. Doctors like her, Joseph Verone, and many others stuck their neck out for us. Now we have a responsibility to stand up for her. The Texas legislature has an immense responsibility next session to pass legislation that curbs the ability of the Texas Medical Board to ever do this again. This is just so wrong, and it's so unjust. Dr. Mary, we love you. We're praying for you. We got your back. You had our back. Now we got your back. Guys, please share this video. Speak up. Let your voice be heard. We've got to stand up for people that are courageous like her, who are trying to do the right thing. God bless you.
Okay, so Dr. Bowden, great question. How do we help you? What can the people at home watching all across America, what can they do to help?
Yeah, I mean, we need to put pressure on Governor Abbott. He's the one that appointed the members of the medical board. I'd love to see a change in leadership. So Doc Pete Chambers is a like-minded physician, Green Beret, Purple Heart recipient, flight surgeon. He was fired for giving informed consent to his troops over the COVID shots. And now he's running for governor. And he has promised sweeping reforms of the medical board. And he has promised to bring me on to try to, enable those reforms. But putting pressure on Governor Abbott is probably the most expeditious thing that people could do right now. Okay,
there we go. All right, so guys, you know what you need to do. We need to contact Governor Abbott's office and let him know what we think. All right, I want Dr. Mccullough, let me play this. I love this clip because I think Rand Paul, before COVID, there were two organizations, three-letter companies that I think, as a whole, America trusted. It was the FDA and the CDC. You cannot get any further from trust now when you mention the FDA and CDC. I think all of Americans are going, hey, whoa, no, we don't trust if they say something, I'm not believing it. But listen to what Rand Paul in his questioning said. Watch.
Does the COVID vaccine prevent transmission?
The COVID vaccine can reduce viral load in individuals who are
Does it prevent transmission?
When you have reduced viral load, you will have reduced transmission.
But in other words, it doesn't prevent transmission. You can still transmit the virus if you've had the vaccine. In fact, there's been reduced ability to interfere with transmission over time. And what we've found is the most recent one since Omicron is down around 16% reduction, if there is a reduction. Does the COVID vaccine reduce hospitalization for children under 18?
It can.
It doesn't. The statistics are inconclusive, and the reason you can't prove that it does is there's so few people under 18 that go to the hospital. The numbers are extraordinarily small. There's like 76 million kids under 18 in our country. 183 died, and a few thousand went to the hospital in 2020 and 2021. And since then, the numbers have dropped precipitously, and the idea and the issue needs to be discussed. But the COVID vaccine is not reducing hospitalization. It's not statistically significant. Does the COVID vaccine reduce the rate of death for children under 18?
It can.
Once again, it can. That's a ridiculous answer. No, it doesn't. And there is no statistical evidence that it does reduce the death rate. These are statistics. We've looked at it.
Okay. Dr. Mccullough, that was, of course, that's CDC official, Susan Menares. Why would she not tell the truth? Why would she not just, I know I'm asking you a question you can't really answer, but there's still this is what's shocking to me. After all that has come out, we're still dealing with this same stuff. They're hiding the truth.
Gene, the CDC and the FDA were the named co-administrators of the vaccine program. They were actually positioned to promote the vaccine at all costs. So Menares there is not being truthful. The vaccines never reduced the case counts, didn't stop transmission, actually did not reduce viral load. Multiple studies show people took the vaccine, the viral load was equal in the nasopharynx, and it never reduced hospitalization and death, never shown in a valid randomized trial or in a valid observational study. In fact, multiple studies, but over 12, show the vaccines increased mortality. So the vaccines were a complete failure. And here we are in 2025 having a former CDC official defend this false narrative.
Defending with Dr. Vella, let me get you to weigh in here. What do you think?
Well, I think what we've witnessed here is widespread gross medical incompetence on a previously unfathomable scale. So we actually don't have to look at all of this pharmacovigilance, post-marketing pharmacovigilance data. The original Pfizer BioNTech B162b trial actually showed that the harms to the trial participants far outweighed any benefit, thus violating the language of the PrEP Act, showing that, explaining that it could only be approved by the HHS secretary if the known benefits outweighed the harms, which was opposite of what the trial showed. So it all starts there, and it's gross medical incompetence. But of course, the pharmacovigilance data was ignored, and the incompetence continued. This is incompetence, is what it is.
It has to be. It has to be incompetence. Dr. Bowden, are you concerned about the next COVID?
No. Well, I think, perhaps our best hope of really seeing some sizable change and getting some accountability is if they try to pull this again on us in the near future, because people are unfortunately moving on. I would like to remind everybody that the vast majority of Americans are not getting these shots. So although there's this illusion that we are not winning, we really are. At the last ACIP meeting in September, the CDC reported that only 10% of healthcare workers received the latest version of the COVID shot. So we really are winning. We need our politicians to acknowledge that and to actually listen to the people. And yeah, I am not fearful of another pandemic whatsoever. I think we've learned our lesson. We learned the importance of early treatment and not panicking, and not really listening to the doctors who are seeing everything firsthand rather than these bureaucrats who are dictating policy over Zoom calls from the safety of their bedrooms.
So, Dr. Bowden, you're in trouble because you prescribe ivermectin. Now, no drug out there has gotten more positive influence than ivermectin since 2020, and I hear it everywhere. People that I talk to are asking or want to know about where to get ivermectin, which you can get it at the wellness company there. We'll put that information up here. But why is it that has to be? And I'll say this, and you don't have to go on record. But the only reason that makes sense to me is because this cheap drug, they can't make a whole lot of money off of ivermectin, and they don't want to admit the benefits. Is it really that simple, or tell me if I'm wrong?
Well, I think they had to denigrate it in order to push the COVID shot. If you look at the timeline, so in March of 2021, the FDA put some misinformation on their website stating that ivermectin was harmful, that patients shouldn't take it for COVID and doctors shouldn't prescribe it for COVID. Right after that, Houston Methodist became the first in the country to mandate the shots. The same day they did that, Biden announced the COVID-19 Community Corps, which is a $10 billion propaganda program to push the shots on all Americans. Government was getting upset because over the summer, their propaganda plan wasn't working and people were still not getting the shots. Late October, the FDA put out the horse tweet. And that was the attractive healthcare worker nuzzling the horse and says, seriously, y'all, stop it. You're not a horse. You're not a cow. Well, that tweet went viral. It had dire consequences. It made it virtually impossible for me to prescribe ivermectin. It prompted the medical boards to go after doctors all across the country. And then right after they did that, Biden mandated the COVID shots and they took away monoclonal antibodies. So it was all very orchestrated and it was all intended to get the shot in every arm.
Okay, Dr. Mccullough, speak to it. Ivermectin.
Safer than Tylenol. I prescribed it today. Gene, I tell you, it was the real winner of the pandemic. Large prospective study, the ICON study by Roster, published in Chest 2020, reduced mortality by 50%, even if started late. Every single sick American with COVID-19, clearly high risk as an outpatient, and those in the ER and hospitalization, they all should have been given ivermectin. Essentially, the nation's hospitals committed malpractice by failure to treat with ivermectin, and that's the reason why they're dug in so hard. People died unnecessarily because they were not given the proper multi-drug treatment from the very beginning, and ivermectin played a big role in that.
It sure did. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening. We've got so much more to cover. We're going to go to break, but this is why I'm saying you need to go share this program on all your social media. Send it to your doctor. Send it to your friends. All right, we're going to talk about vaccine regret after the break and spike detox. We'll talk about all of that, spike protein detox, right after this.
Step into the land where the Word became flesh. In April 2026, join Gene and Terry Bailey along with FlashPoint guests you know and love for a powerful prophetic journey through Israel.
We're coming to Israel, and I promise you, you may have been on a tour, but you've never been on a tour with FlashPoint.
Worship where heaven touched earth. This isn't just a tour. It's an encounter with God in the land of miracles. Space is limited, so reserve your spot today.
It's breathtaking. A tsunami of darkness threatens to wash away all we hold dear if we don't act now. In Killing America, Turning the Tide on the Tsunami of Darkness, Gene and Terry Bailey bring hope, help, and chart a course that leads to America's restoration and renewal. Don't wait. Get your copy at killingamericabook.com and counter the tsunami of darkness with a deluge of everlasting light.
You're invited to a special evening with the FlashPoint Army. Join Gene and Terry Bailey and other special guests for the FlashPoint Gala on Saturday, December 6th at 6 p.m. Together, we'll celebrate all that God is doing through the FlashPoint movement and look ahead to what's next. Enjoy a beautiful dinner and an inspiring word from our keynote speaker, Dutch sheets, and so much more. Register today, fparmy.com/gala event, as space is limited.
FlashPoint isn't just a show, it's a movement. And now you can take the movement with you.
FlashPointStore.com has new merchandise.
From t-shirts to hats, mugs to more, we've got what you need to stand for truth in style. Everywhere you go, make a statement of faith, freedom, and boldness.
Make sure you wear FlashPoint. Always show your colors.
Order today at FlashPointStore.com. Don't just watch FlashPoint, wear it. Be part of the Army.
Welcome back to the second half. Yes, get the book, Killing America. We're talking about all the ways they're trying to take over. You thought it was just an election. It's not. And we've been talking about what we're dealing with here in America. So you need to get that copy. But I want to put a copy of Dr. Mccullough's book up there. Dr. Mccullough, how can they get your book?
You can go to Amazon or just anywhere you buy books. Our book is Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. Thanks to actually the FlashPoint Army, Gene, it's a New York Times bestseller, the only one in this genre. It's a gripping 300-year history of how this, in a sense, this craziness, this delusional ideology developed over vaccines.
And so, and let me tell you, I have not read your book, but I've thumbed through it a little bit. So I don't know if that counts. But I was hooked with RFK Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci. This big, thick black book. I don't know if it's still out. I'm sure you can probably still find it. But he went into so much detail, written back during COVID, on the history with autism and stuff that gives you background that you never thought you would know. And so get these books. They're great. We can only do so much in an hour. So you need to go get into it. All right, let me show you what Joe Rogan had to say about vaccine regret. Watch.
Everybody went through that now. It's the first time in our lives that the entire country got kind of medically bamboozled.
Yep.
And a lot of people regret taking the vaccine, and I don't know anybody who regrets not taking the vaccine. It was a weird time, like a very bizarre experiment on how you can get people to comply, how you can restrict their movement, that you can implement these sort of devices to, if you're not physically forcing them to do it, make their life as possible. And Fauci's been quoted as saying that. You want to get to drop their ideological bull and get vaccinated. That's what he said, remember?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a psyop, and now we know.
Joe Rogan does Fauci. Okay, I need to mention your book, Dr. Bowden, Dangerous Misinformation, the Virus Treatment, and the Lies. How can people get that book as well?
Well, you can pre-order it off of Amazon right now. It comes out in May.
Comes out in May. All right. There you go. Dangerous Misinformation. Look at all this stuff we're putting on people to go get. And I think this is if there's a good thing that's come out of what we've walked through the last few years, is that the American public now is educating themselves. We don't want you to treat yourself, but you do need to educate yourself, and you can go armed when you go to the doctor. Dr. Vella, let me get your take on, before I go to back to Dr. Mccullough, what have you seen when it comes to vaccine regret? Are you running into, I just want to know, are you running into more and more people that wish they'd never gotten the vaccine?
Yes, that's true. But I do like to reassure people that just like they now understand that the entire operation was a fraud, it is actually a pretty good chance that they actually did not get the fully intact mRNA sequence capable of producing the spike protein. So I reassure them in that way, especially if they felt nothing after the shot. So I like to reassure them. I believe that perhaps it's possible only 50% of people who actually took the shot did get the full length of mRNA. There's about 10 ways in which that mRNA can break down and be ineffective by the time that it's injected in the body, from the time that it is developed in the manufacturing process. So that's the good news. But yes, I'm seeing that, and I do see a need. But I do see a need, for spike detox as well. So I think Dr. Mccullough has a good product there. I do like the ingredients with the curcumin and the bromelain working as anti-inflammatory and promoting something called autophagy, which is a natural detox metabolic phase that we need to do daily, and then also the nattokinase to break down, to enzymatically break down the spike protein if they do have it in their system.
All right, Liz, let me go to you, Dr. Mccullough. I know we've talked about this before, but pretend that people have never seen you before on this show, and we never talked about the spike detox. Dr. Vella talked about not getting the full run of the mRNA, but is there still a concern that I still need to get this spike detox? What is it and how do I do it?
Well, we can tell now, Gene, by a blood test. LabCorp is opening this up. The public can just get it themselves. They don't need a doctor. Just go to LabCorp, Labs on Demand, infectious diseases, COVID-19 antibody, pay $69 and get your blood test. And if the antibody level is less than 1,000, every study shows there's very little exposure to the spike protein, whereas over 5,000, and it's our experience, and we've working with research labs, we actually find the spike protein and the vaccine circulating in the bloodstream. So the blood test is very useful. The wellness company has initially had spike support. Now the ultimate spike detox. We intentionally did not patent it. So other companies can put together their combinations. And if you go on Amazon right now, you see all kinds of spike detox combinations using enzymes like nattokinase and bromelain, and then other natural ingredients. I use this product in addition to prescription drugs to treat people every day. About a quarter of people who took the shots have what's called a bad batch. At least somebody's died in that batch, in certainly the Pfizer batches. 75% didn't. Dr. Vella's right. Many people are in the clear. The blood test and a doctor's exam helps figure it out.
So if I didn't get because, a lot of people are concerned about the whole shedding that we've talked about on this show over the years, the shedding, what happened. If they never got the vaccine, do they need to be concerned about doing this spike detox?
Again, if the blood test shows the antibodies over 1,000, I think there's enough of an exposure. Remember, the serious infections can load the body with the spike protein. I have plenty of patients in my practice who did not take the shots, Gene, but they developed giant blood clots and other problems, and their spike antibody is very high, so they need the detox in addition to prescription medicines.
Interesting. I did not know that. All right, so let's break down. We only got like 20 minutes left in this program. It's never enough time. I want to talk about the autism report. We started off the show talking about that. Dr. Mccullough, lead us. What is it that new on the horizon that we need to understand about autism and what we need to do about it?
Autism is an epidemic. It's the largest childhood disease now, looming large. We have over 1% of children now severely disabled from autism, require caregivers, and it's growing rapidly. Our government has had no answers for this. The Institute of Medicine last reviewed this in 2004. They considered the vaccines. They thought the connection was just theoretical. Well, I can tell you, Mccullough Foundation report on the determinants of autism is conclusive now. 82% new information since 2004, over 130 studies. The preponderance of the data suggests that combination vaccines are a major risk factor for the development of autism. Now, there are other risk factors, including older parents, premature delivery, exposure to serious drugs during pregnancy, like antipsychotics, antiepileptics, antidepressants. Not a dose of Tylenol, by the way. That I think was a misleading press conference that America heard about Tylenol. But some prenatal drug exposures can be a risk factor, siblings with autism, some common genetic variants. But by and large, the largest reversible or modifiable risk factor is combination vaccines, Gene. And now a recent report in JAMA by Vesuvian and colleagues indicate 60% of young parents are going to walk away from these childhood vaccine schedules.
Let's go to this, the Mccullough Foundation report, Determinants of Autism Spectrum Disorder, and walk us through in layman's terms. As I look at this, take us around the circle and help us understand how this works, Dr. Mccullough.
Autism is a clinical diagnosis, and like most neurological, cardiovascular, and other diseases, there's no single cause, okay? So there's just risk factors. That is, things that are associated with. We believe there's a biological plausibility, a temporal association. There's been enough coherence in the literature. And so, this involves scholarship and review of data. Robert F. Kennedy, promised an answer on this by September. He didn't have it. Our CDC has a $9 billion budget, 12,000 employees, including MDs and PhDs, and they couldn't do this, Gene? It really took independent scientists under my direction to do this. I can tell you right now, our government agencies didn't want to find this answer.
Let me get you to weigh in here, Dr. Bowden. What do you see here? Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done the kind of deep dive that Dr. Mccullough has done, but I can share that what I see in my office is a huge vaccine hesitancy, a huge increase in parents coming to me concerned, wanting exemptions. Even in Texas, it's tricky. I had parents of a 3-year-old tell me that schools now used to be a little more relaxed about the vaccines, and now they're becoming stricter, and they won't even let children apply to the school if they have never received a vaccine, which is sort of a newer development. And it's interesting because COVID really brought this to a head. You know, I had never really considered how wrong it was to mandate vaccines to get an education. I just did it and didn't even think twice about it. But when you think about it, it really is wrong. No one should be medically mandated to have something injected in their body in order to have a job or to get an education. And I know Dr. Latipo in Florida is leading the charge to eliminate all medical mandates. Idaho recently passed a law eliminating all medical mandates. Unfortunately, there is a carve out for hospitals, of course, but we really need to push this further and raise awareness that, you know, all medical mandates are wrong, full stop.
You know, I don't, you can probably tell me, Dr. Bowden, how many vaccines a newborn in America gets the moment, you know, once they're born. I mean, it's a staggering number.
Well, the key thing is the hepatitis B vaccine, which is meant to protect from a sexually transmitted disease and something IV drug users get. The large majority of newborn babies are not exposed to this unless their mother is high risk for it, which can be screened for. And what's shocking is, and I wasn't taught this in medical school, and shame on me for not researching it, but the vaccine was only monitored for 5 days following when they did the initial trial. They just looked at safety and side effects for 5 days.
Wow.
It's truly unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Dr. Vella, let me get you to weigh in here.
Well, it went from 23 doses in total of vaccines prior to, in 1983, prior to the passage of the National Vaccine Injury or Childhood Injury Act in 1986 to up to 72 doses now. But what people don't realize is that the vaccine, the COVID vaccine is still being recommended for some. And if those people take advantage of it, that could be another COVID booster every year from age 2 to 17, which would put them over 90 vaccines from 0 to age 18. So, but going back to the study, I love the graphic showing the fact that autism is multifactorial, but visually you can see so easily how the single most prominent influential factor is the vaccines. And I love the way that he's included the mechanism there because it's consistent with what is known about vaccine injury in general, which is organ and tissue specific inflammation. So if that inflammation occurs, settles in the heart, that's called myocarditis, and you can get a fatal arrhythmia. If that inflammation settles in the brain, you get encephalitis, which can cause seizure disorder and death, or if you survive, could leave you with residual brain injury. So I just love the graphic at the top of the report.
Yeah, Dr. Mccullough, I mean, 72 doses and like Dr. Vella saying up to 90 plus by the time you're 17, it seems to me a bit excessive. And I think the rest of America believes that as well.
Gene, it's stupendous. The WHO is looking for 500 vaccines by 2030. Wow. And vaccine promoter Dr. Paul Offit at University of Pennsylvania goes on CNN. He is looking at 1,000 vaccines. He believes a little baby could take 1,000 vaccines. I can tell you these are vaccine zealots. These are individuals and groups of people who have lost their minds over vaccines. It can't be healthy to take all these shots. A little baby's body can't take it. Now, our report indicates 12 studies of a healthy child born today in today's modern era. 12 studies show a healthy child born today is healthier, Gene, if they take no vaccines whatsoever.
Yeah, I believe that. I think the most of Americans believe that. Because, you know, it's just like all of our, I mean, we're sitting here watching TV and you see all the ads for stuff where the side effects are worse than whatever condition you've got and may cause death, you know, all those things. I think Americans have grown vaccine regret, yes, but also we've grown vaccine weary and leery of, this is where the medical community has got a problem with Americans. We don't, and I won't say everybody, but on a large scale, there's a level of distrust than never before. So let me ask you for all of, I've got senior citizens watching and young people watching, but so how does someone, is there any, can you help me, Dr. Mccullough, recommending somebody, I know you can't do a global endorsement of somebody, but I mean, how do we find the right doctor? How do we find the right physician to work with us? Because we don't know all of their background, and we see they went to school and got their license and their medical license, but how do we know? I mean, I would want to go to one of you guys that got, you know, I'd ask questions, I guess is the best rate, but I want to get your input here. How do we find the right doctor that's not going to shoot us up with 90 vaccines?
Well, you certainly want a good referral, but a good test is to ask them about vaccines. You know, patients are seeking doctors who are open-minded about vaccines, particularly pediatricians who, you know, have a vaccine-free practice pathway where the children don't have to take vaccines. The same thing, they're searching for OB-GYN, obstetrics and gynecology. We have a gynecologist here in Dallas who's an older gentleman, someone who I know, my wife has seen him for years. My wife asked him about the COVID vaccine, and he was honest. He said, listen, I was scared, I took it, but I would never ask a young woman to take an experimental vaccine. You know, that's a fair answer from a doctor, and that's what people are looking for.
I think it's so good. Let me get you to weigh in there, Dr. Bowden. Same question. How do we know who to get?
Yeah, I have to agree with Dr. Mccullough. COVID is a litmus test and a doctor's stance on that. And yeah, they don't have to have gotten it perfectly from the very start. I mean, I didn't call it out perfectly from the start, but being open-minded, you know, if you mention the word ivermectin, do they recoil and gasp, or, you know, are they open-minded? And you can figure that out with just some simple questions, and you can just start with the pandemic and their thoughts on that.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Vella, same question.
Well, for me, there's a very simple litmus test going forward in the post-COVID area to evaluate physician competence. And it could be asked as benignly as, Doctor, COVID was a very difficult time for everybody. How did you fare during these past 5 years? Now, if that doctor does not have something very interesting to tell you, I think you need to question anything coming out of you need to question anything coming out of that doctor's mouth in the future.
Yeah.
Because if they missed this one, this was so fundamental to medical practice, then I don't think you can trust them to treat you for a cold.
Well said. Well said. All right, Dr. Mccullough, I'm going to give you a couple things I think that I hear people asking me about, and I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on television. So I want to know, methylene blue, hype or something we need to be concerned or we should look into?
You know, it's in some wellness company products, Gene. I haven't reviewed it in detail. I've used it clinically in the coronary ICU in patients after transplant and in emergency situations after carbon monoxide poisoning. I think right now it's probably more hype than anything else, but, you know, I'm open to learn more.
All right. Let me ask you, now, your bio is pretty long here, Dr. Bowden, but it says you're on the board of the Vaccine Safety Research Foundation. What is that?
It was an organization that grew out of the pandemic, started by Steve Kirsch, and the purpose is just to advocate for the vaccine injured and to educate the public about vaccine safety and bring awareness to that issue.
Oh, well, so we should be looking for more and more information from you as well. Thank you guys for all being on. In the last 8 minutes, I want to actually talk about, let me start with you, Dr. Vella. Well, actually, let me show you this. This is number 13, guys. Show this. Health officials in Washington state confirmed the first U.S. human case of the new bird flu strain, H5N5. Our virus has been seen in animals, but never before in people. What does this tell you, Dr. Vella?
Well, this has come up in the news again. I believe this outbreak began early in 2024. The last I checked with the CDC, there's been 71 cases of bird flu in the United States in the last 2 years. There has been one death out of those 71 in a person who had underlying medical issues. But we need to remember that, as with COVID and a famous case of measles in Texas recently, these deaths have been commonly mislabeled. So we don't know if that person actually died from COVID. And also there has been no person-to-person transmission of the disease.
Right.
These have all of these cases have occurred in animal workers. So I think people are tired of the incessant, pandemic fear-mongering, and they're becoming immune to it. Is what I'm thinking.
I think you're absolutely right. Let me show you this, Dr. McCullough, and get you to comment on it. Bird flu spiking across the country. New research from the University of Pennsylvania suggests wild birds are driving the surge. Migrating ducks, geese, and swans are spreading disease, and culling domestic flocks is not enough to stop it. Remember when they culled all the chickens across America? I mean, it was staggering. Dr. McCullough, help it make sense.
Gene, the bird flu response, this biosecurity has been a debacle, unnecessarily killing healthy chickens. They recently slaughtered a bunch of healthy ostrich up in Canada. It was a tragedy. Mccullough Foundation published a peer-reviewed paper in the journal Forestry and Poultry Sciences showing that the bird flu strain came out of the USDA Poultry Research Laboratory in Athens, Georgia, that it was a product of gain-of-function research. And it did spread in mallard ducks and waterfowl. And now recently the CDC former director Redfield has come out and said we are right. So I was wondering why the government agencies didn't come after us is because we made the right call. So yes, It was another misadventure from a lab. It spread through mallard ducks. We should have never killed any chickens. We should have allowed natural immunity to set in. Fortunately, that's happened, and now egg prices have come down. And we just have to stop the madness. There shouldn't be mass testing, and it's very easily treated if a human ever gets it. And we shouldn't allow any deaths of any animals or humans, since the animals will recover spontaneously.
Staggering. And well, you guys are amazing. Thank you for coming on the show. This is giving our people great information. Let me ask you this in our last 4 minutes. I'm going to go around the room. And Dr. Vella, I'll start with you. Take a minute and tell me what's the most encouraging thing you see happening on the medical front.
The most encouraging thing is I think people, because of this distrust that's been demonstrated by allopathic medicine, more people are turning to alternative medicines, naturopathic, holistic, and so forth. And I believe that these therapies, if they went into head-to-head trials with a lot of allopathic treatments, could be shown to be just as effective with less toxicity. So there is a movement towards alternative care, but I think what we're going to do is end up having a marriage between the best of allopathic care and the best of naturopathic care, and that would be the best possible outcome for the future.
Sounds great. All right, Dr. Bowden, your thoughts?
You know, the pandemic ended a long time ago, but I still see people very much outraged over what happened. They're still seeking accountability. They're still seeking for the COVID shots to be pulled off the market. Our current HHS seems to want to sweep the pandemic under the rug, but that is not what the people want. And that's what I'm seeing on Twitter, on social media. I have an organization called Americans for Health Freedom, where we ask politicians to simply state that the COVID shot should be pulled off the market.
Amen.
I started that 2 years ago, and it keeps growing. So I just had a flurry of legislators from South Dakota sign my pledge. So the pandemic ended, but people are not moving on. Our politicians want to move on, but the people do not. And we are just going to continue fighting until we get accountability, until we get these COVID shots pulled off the market, because they are poison. They are all risk. They're absolutely no benefit. Any other product would have been pulled off the market a long time ago. Dr.
Mccullough, your thoughts?
Quickly, people are taking matters into their own hand. Great organizations like Dr. Bowden's has, risen, the Wellness Company, Mccullough Foundation, Dr. Vella represents the body. These are all expressions of the public taking matters into their own hands and pushing for personal autonomy, medical freedom. They're not waiting for the government to provide answers. The government failed us in the pandemic, and I don't think people are going to fall for this ever again.
All right, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to, of course, Dr. Vella, Dr. Bowden, and Dr. Mccullough. Listen, the website right there, twc.health/flash. You can get a lot of good information. Go there and find out more information on how you can, especially that ultimate spike detox that so many of you that have watched this show are interested in. Listen, the important thing here, and this is why we're bringing you the information, is to give you the right information, but to do it without fear attached to it, because we do not want to separate you from your loved ones. We don't want the fear that we had during COVID or the COVID camps and all the stuff that you saw that we're all kind of trying, like they said, trying to sweep under the rug now. We have a lot to do. So don't get in fear, number one. Educate yourself. Buy these books. These are great books with great information. Educate, educate, educate. If anything we've learned over the last 5 years, you need to educate yourself about how the government works. You need to educate yourself about what's going on in your body and what's going in your body. And listen, the older generation, my parents would not ask a lot of times the doctor question because they just figured he knew. And that's fine. But listen, you've got to ask questions nowadays. Ask, ask, ask. Get the information you need. Don't be bullied into something you're not comfortable with. And by all means, pray. And let's keep the right thing in the right place. Listen, we have a lot of work to do. I need you with me. I need you healthy and whole. And don't buy the lie that just because you're over 60 years old, if you are, that you're on the downhill slide. We need to stay healthy. We've got a lot of work to do. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, Dr. Bowden, for also joining us tonight. We'll see you next time right here on FlashPoint.
FlashPoint Army, I'm excited to announce that we're having our Made in America sale. We just put huge discounts on all of our products that are made right here in the USA. My Pillow bed pillows, body pillows, go anywhere pillows, and bolster pillows. They're all made with my patented adjustable fill so you get the best sleep of your life. And how about our mattresses, mattress toppers, mattress pads, adjustable bed frames, mattress foundations, and so much more. All made right here in the USA. And we've even expanded beyond just quality sleep. Like the cross I wear every day, now it's available in both men and women's. And how about my coffee? The greatest coffee in history. And we've even expanded into health and wellness with everything from ashwagandha and apple cider gummies to liquid joint formulas, body and beauty detox kits, liquid complex for heart and brain support, Cold Buster all-in-one immune formula, and Vibe, the best superfood ever, and Vibe Plus collagen. Fish oil omega-3 pills, pro and prebiotic gut formula, prostate complete, and a natural sleep formula. So go to mypillow.com or call 800-975-4719. Use promo code FLASH to get huge savings with our Made in the USA sale. Thank you and God bless.
This is the FlashPoint Television Network.